Hey everybody, it's Lori, and shortly I'm going to be joined by Charlotte, so there's space for her over here. And we're going to do a book review times two. So we both recently read House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. So this is a YA fantasy book, and it's a little bit of a mystery thriller-ish fantasy. It kind of has several genres kind of all smushed into one. So this is a debut novel by Aaron A. Craig, and I ended up purchasing it because she is the cousin of a friend of mine, so I don't know the author at all, but one of her cousins was posting how cool it was. And then I had just seen several people talk about this book, and I decided to go ahead and pick it up. Charlotte did read it before me because I was driving the day that we got it. So, sadly, she could read and I could not. So, basically, this is a retelling of the fairy tale, The 12 Dancing Princesses. And Charlotte is a huge fairy tale fan, so I figured she would enjoy it. And I always enjoy retellings as well. Okay. So, now we have Charlotte here. First thing you need to know about this book is that it is not a direct retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. So for those of you who don't happen to be total fairy tale nerds and don't know what the 12 Dancing Princesses, because I've noticed this seems to be a lot of people I've seen who have read this were not familiar with the 12 Dancing Princesses. Really? I know, I found it strange too, but anyway. Here is a quick overview of the 12 Dancing Princesses as told by Charlotte.
So, the 12 Dancing Princesses, in the original story, of course there are 12 princesses who are all sisters, and they share one gigantic bedroom. I don't know why.
Is that in the original too,
yes.
Not just in the Barbie 12
yes,
Dancing Princesses?
It's in the original.
Okay, just checking. I remember the Barbie movie.
And
very well. Thank you,
yes,
Charlotte.
Yes. My favorite Barbie movie of all time. And they are already when the fairy tale begins, every night they disappear for a few hours, and their door is still locked and their windows are locked, but in the morning, every morning, their shoes are worn to pieces. And this irritates the king, their father, very, very much.
Kids in shoes tend to irritate parents.
And he decides that if there's a young man who can find out why his daughter's shoes are always disintegrating, then he will let the young man choose one of his daughters to marry.
The first big difference is that instead of having the 12 sisters all have this problem with their shoes disintegrating every night, when we start the book, there's already 4 of the sisters are dead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no death in the original 12 Dancing Princesses. So 4 of the sisters are dead, and it basically starts at one of their funerals. It has quite a bit of a, world building, you learn about the religion of these people. They live on an island, they worship a sea god, there are other gods in their pantheon, the gods sometimes get involved in the lives of the humans, that sort of thing. And while the girls don't all share one giant bedroom, they do have this occasion where they get these fancy slippers and the slippers are wearing out. So in this particular culture, though, which makes this kind of a weird retelling, in the original 12 Dancing Princesses, whoever got the daughter kind of got the throne because it was a patriarchal society. And in this, girls inherit, the oldest child inherits whether boy or girl, so that didn't quite work out. But the dad does offer the reward of choosing one of the daughters if somebody can figure out what's happening to their shoes. but it just gets a little weird from there.
Yeah.
So, we don't want to get too much into the plot, obviously, because we don't want to spoil the book. So, what was your least favorite thing about the book?
That's hard. I did not like the stepmother.
Okay, they do have a stepmother in this, and she's interesting.
Something.
She is something. Okay, I was not a big fan of the level of romance in the book. I mean, it wasn't done poorly. It's just, these girls seemed a little extra boy crazy for a bunch of sisters whose sisters just keep dying mysteriously.
Yes.
You'd think they'd care more about their sisters than about boys, but I wasn't a big fan of that. What was your favorite thing about this book?
I liked that, kind of the plot twist.
Okay, it did have some really good plot twists. I really loved the descriptions in the book. She talked about the different gowns. They were supposed to be in mourning, and then they stopped being in mourning. So when they were in mourning, everything was boring and black, and they had special bands and everything. But then we get into these dresses, and she gives just really kind of detailed descriptions of dresses. And I think that Eva in particular would probably have a great time drawing the dresses out of this book. So I really appreciated all of the detail. And I kind of appreciated how creepy it got.
Yeah, that was...
I wasn't expecting super creepy.
No, even after, in the first, sentence of the description, 4 of the sisters are dead, I didn't think it would get that creepy, but
yeah,
it was awesome.
It gets pretty super creepy.
I did not like the main character very much. She just...
See, I kind of liked the main character. There were too many boys around her, but she was way less boy crazy than all of her sisters.
Yes.
The sisters really didn't have a whole lot of personality aside from 1 or 2.
I did like one of the sisters who had a lot of personality, Verity.
Mm-hmm. Verity was
the youngest
cute.
sister.
But they tended to lump some of the characters together, like the 3 youngest sisters. They called the Graces. They were like Verity and Honor, and I can't remember the other one's name. But they were all named after, Grace Virtue-y type things.
Yeah.
And then there was a set of triplets, and so they always kind of felt like one character. So I kind of felt like the characters could have been fleshed out better. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good book. So I have an interesting question for you. So Regina Doman, your favorite author of all time, who wrote Waking Rose, amongst other things, also has a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses that you don't like.
No. It's awful. I just don't like it.
Is there a particular reason? So you think this is a better retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, or you just like this book better than that book? Is that one more true to the original?
That one's more true to the original, and I don't particularly like this more as a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling.
But as a book overall, as a story, you enjoyed the story more?
It's much better.
Okay, so Regina Doman's is probably a better retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. This was a more compelling story to you.
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. Who do you think might want to read this? If you were going to suggest this to people, what would you say to them? If you like whatever.
If you like the Hazelwood, I don't remember who that's by.
Melissa Albert, maybe?
Yes, Melissa Albert. The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert is such...
I said Marissa. Okay, Melissa Albert.
It's Melissa. It's such a good book. It's very, very, very creepy, but it's awesome.
Would you say there's a particular age you would say probably not under this many years old, or
if you're not in high school, or one of the older grades in high school is better than younger than that, because there are some very iffy things in this.
Nothing is very descriptive, but there are some things that I thought this is a little mature for a young adult book. So I would say teenage years would probably be okay, right? Like
Yeah.
13 and up. But if you have concerns about your child reading something that might be not necessarily graphic, but touching on topics that maybe they don't really need to be getting into, you might want to wait on this for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it is a fun book. It's a creepy book.
Yes.
It's a pretty quick book to read. It's about 400 pages.
Took me a few hours.
403. She finished it in a car ride. It took me about a week, but then again, like, I have stuff I have to do, and somebody can just read for 3 hours while we drive in a car. So that helps. So I would recommend this book. You know, I think it's one that adults can enjoy. I don't think it's the greatest book I've ever read, but I definitely would give it a recommend if you like kind of mildly spooky books, fairy tale-esque. Not really the greatest retelling,
No.
but it feels like a fairy tale at least. It has that fairy tale vibe. So we would both recommend The House of Salt and Sorrows if that seems like the sort of book you would be interested in. Anything else? Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know in the comments if you've read this book or if you're interested in reading it after we've talked about it, and what you thought. I'd love to know, and I'll tell Charlotte all about it. She doesn't read comments, but I can read them to her. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.